Welcome in. It's that time once again this week, right here on Buffalo Rumblings. This is Line to Gain, and I am the big O Jerry Ostroski down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She is my sister from another mister. She is, I'm going to go ahead with it. She is Sarah Christine down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And my man is with me, man. I got to meet my guy last week on our extended version, and he's back with us this week. He is all bro Poe. Jeremiah Poyer's with us right now. Hey, man, great to have you guys on. As always, great weekly conversation about the Bills. We'll talk about the Chargers. We'll talk about the Pats. How's it going, everybody?
Well, you know me. I'm, picking up something in every single city that I go to. So I guess you're not supposed to go into the hot tub when it's only, 50 degrees out in Los Angeles. So I came back with something. But I've been sucking on some chloroseptic stuff for my throat. I feel fine. Other than that, it's that part, but got to get better for this weekend. So,
well, I always keep you in check, and I'm sure I'm sure my man Jeremiah keep you in check too. So, we won't go down that route yet. But anyway, Hey, I'm excited, man. I get to see everybody this weekend. We'll be heading up tomorrow night. I got my two oldest boys. My son that plays at Tulsa, his one of his teammates is coming up, and then my oldest boy's fiance is with us, heading up to spend some time at Buffalo. Check the Sabres out, check the Bills out. Big props to the Bills. Thank you. You've been wonderful to me, and I'm excited about the game this weekend.
Yeah, are you a Sabres fan? My bad.
I'm a hockey fan. I love the Sabres. I have the same problem that I do with the Bills. The Bills are my team, right? I love the Bills, but I was born into this Philadelphia Eagles thing, right? So I love the Sabres. I support the Sabres. My real good buddy's a bench coach at the Sabres, Jason Christie. But I like the Philadelphia Flyers because I was born into it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but are you still going to the Sabres game on Saturday?
Oh yeah, we're gonna hit skate around. We're gonna hit practice on Saturday morning or early afternoon before the game. Get to see Jason and hopefully his son. That's my son and him played hockey together here in Tulsa, and get to spend a little time. I'm excited. We're seeing some people we hadn't seen in a while. Getting to spend a little time with former, not former, but friends from the past who have, you don't get to see as much, and it'll be fun.
Nice. Well, like I said, I told you about a couple events happening after the Sabres game Saturday night. So if you have a chance, bring everyone through. And can't wait to see you guys on Sunday at the Mafia House.
Well, the problem is I got all these young heads with me. So like they're going to want to, they're going to want
to party too.
Pop's got to get that Uber, you know what I'm
saying? Well, I'll let them know where we're at. So if you want to go Uber back to the hotel, you can.
All right, Jeremiah. We always start our show every week with Sarah and her streak. I believe we're at 58 games last week, 59 this week. Miami will be 60 if I remember
60,
that.
Yep.
And a little bit about the trip, and then we'll get into the game and we'll talk about the Chargers game from this past Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, so last year, obviously, I did Los Angeles last year. So this year I wanted to do some actual tourist stuff. So I went and saw the Hollywood sign. I went down, the Hollywood strip where I got to see the stars, the Walk of Fame or whatever you call it. We got to go see where Nipsey Hussle's store was and where he was killed. And definitely some highlights. Went to Santa Monica Pier. I had watched a million movies and TV shows with that pier. And so I was just like, I want to go and ride the Ferris wheel, something stupid, but I wanted to do it. And I did. So definitely had a great time in Los Angeles. Did the Fans of Buffalo and Bills backers tailgate. So got to see a lot of people and, headed into the game. To be honest with you, going down 10-0, I was like, this is the exact fear that I had. But, it was one of those games, you call it a trap game and stuff. And when we went down, I was like, here we go. But, we rallied and I'm very thankful that the team, figured it out at the end.
So I gave you the script.
I know. I keep on doubting you. And, Jerry, I've doubted you a couple of times, but every week after the game, I tweet about the script. You see it. If you know, you know. So Jared and I have this ongoing thing with the script. So I know we're headed. We'll be in Vegas. February.
Well, hey, I'm gonna hit the particulars real quick. We'll talk some stats, and then I want to get to Jeremiah real quick because I appreciate
Has been on one.
I appreciate his Twitter banner. I want to get into something he talked about during the game. But Bills win 24-22 over the Chargers in Los Angeles. Josh Allen, 15 to 21, 237 yards, 1 INT. He did have a sack, passing touchdown, no rushing. Yes, he had 2 rushing touchdowns this game. We didn't run the ball very much. We'll talk about that in a minute. Cooks had 20 rushes, 70 yards. Leonard Fournette comes out of mothballs, 5 carries, 20 yards. Josh Allen, 5 for 15. Gabe Davis, wide receiver number 2.
God, both
4
of you guys.
catches,
yes,
130 yards.
Shout out his number, baby.
Yep, 13. 1 touchdown, had all kinds of drives extended. Big game by Gabe. Shakira, 3 catches, 45 yards. Diggs, 5 for 29. Knox had 2 for 26. Kincaid, hey, man, since Knox has come back, we haven't seen the numbers like we saw from him earlier in the year. And defending, we look at some tackles. The only one that matters, your guy Poyer had he had 5 tackles total? 5 tackles total. And by the way, Mr. Rapp led the way with 9 tackles. Johnson behind him with 7. Bernard with 7. He did have a sack. Douglas had a sack. Ed Oliver had 2 sacks, got paid. And Puna Ford, another one that was on the side of a milk carton there for a long time. Puna shows back up, had 2 tackles and a sack. But my man Jeremiah said something, and I loved it. And I'm going to start the conversation about the Chargers game with this. He made the comment, he said, hey, people, you can't have it always. Anytime anything happens, everybody complains. They play a softer shell defense, people complain. They play press man, they get beat, people complain. All they do is complain about no matter what. So you got to figure out what you want, right? I mean, and you made that comment. I thought it was pretty good because when you and I were texting a little bit during the game, I thought your assessment of what was going defensively was big time, saying that with the young quarterback, play a little bit soft, try to see how things go, get a lead, and then pressure them up. And it seemed to be what the Bills did.
Yeah, I've just been around McDermott for, I don't play, but I've been watching this team for 7 years, the way McDermott coaches. I have a pretty good grasp on the way he likes to coach certain quarterbacks, certain games, and he tends to play a little bit base coverage, see what the quarterback's trying to hit. And Joe Miller had a comment during the game about he didn't like the soft zone and the cover 3 that they were playing, and I was like, well, they do tend to play that, and then that seam ball that they hit for the first 3 quarters is going to get picked at some point, and lo and behold, like the next drive, Christian Benford picks that seam ball, and it's the way they like to play. They like to let their players play with eyes and come up and make plays and be smart about it. So I've just been around McDermott for a while, I guess.
No, I think it was a great point. The reason why I brought it up was, you got a guy like Stick who's playing, and his numbers weren't bad. I mean, he was 23 of 33, 215 yards. He did get sacked 5 times. He had 25 yards rushing. He had the rushing touchdown. The worst thing you can do is play so aggressive that you give a guy like this false hope, right? You give him a whole bunch of confidence, and then all of a sudden my man thinks he's Superman, right? I totally get it. I mean, you lull the guy to sleep, maybe give him a little bit of stuff, soft looks, get him playing one way, and then take advantage of him being aggressive or maybe seeing ghosts, so to speak. So, no, the reason I brought it up is I thought it was a great assessment. I thought it was a really good view on what our defense does and what McDermott does, because if you watch it, and I went back to the all 22, and I was watching and I was seeing it, the softness of it. Maybe you end up a play here or there, but everything's in front of us, and then heating it up. I thought it was a really good game plan by him. I think our biggest issue, and Sarah, I kind of wanted to run this to you. I mean, you were in the building, tons of Bills fans, but man, the turnovers. I mean, the error just had to come out of the place. Every time you thought you got something going, we just kept turning the football over.
Yeah, I mean, that's wherever you are. It's especially at home, and it kind of it felt like a home game. You know, a lot of times during, you know, throughout the game, it felt like a home game. So we would have motivation, and then all of a sudden everyone's screaming, and then it was just quiet. But you really didn't hear LA fans going nuts until probably like towards the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter is when you were like, oh, there's Charger fans here. Holy crap. Like, you just didn't really realize it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem anytime, any week that we play. The turnovers suck the air out of you. So we need to stop doing it. You know, there was a couple of times where, you know, like the interception that was thrown to Stephon Diggs, but was kind of a little underthrown. I think that was equally on Josh as it was on Stephon. I felt like Stephon kind of let himself get undercut. He saw it happening at the same time. Maybe he didn't realize that was going to be underthrown. But those are the plays that happen when you throw downfield, and we keep on saying we haven't been throwing downfield. We haven't been throwing downfield, and now Josh throws downfield, and everyone's like, "Oh, what's wrong with Josh again?" So, you know, we got, you know, 3 touchdowns out of him again. I'm so okay with Josh doing, you know, Josh being himself, and if that happens to occur, you know, a turnover here and there, we just can't keep on doing it more than once. It definitely changes the game.
But again, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Just to stack on top, I'm a big proponent of like knowing your quarterback, and I can't, just as much as I won't blame Gabe for that pass in Kansas City or maybe it was Kansas City where Josh underthrew him, and he's running a fade ball. These receivers are expecting Josh to get that ball out there really far, so they're running 100 miles an hour. I can't blame Diggs for thinking that ball might be overthrown and then having to stop and come back for it. And if I'm not going to blame Gabe, I'm not going to blame Diggs for that. I think Josh needed to set his feet and throw the ball, which would have been a little bit more useful in that throw. But just to stack on top of that point, I don't know what's going on with Diggs. I don't know if he's hurt or something, but I can't blame him for that underthrown ball.
I did want to add on top of that. So a lot of people are, you know, making comments about Cook has an issue with turnover. He's had 2 games where he's had 2 turnovers in both games, but he hasn't lost both of them in both games. So we have to stop the, you know, oh, he has the turnover problem. He doesn't. But I do think that there is some, you know, in the beginning of the season when he had that turnover and they sat him, I actually think that now I look back at this past week and I was like, that might have helped him because we didn't sit him this time. So now he's like, they have confidence that I'm going to go back out there and I'm not going to do it again. So I feel like, you know, early in the season, we all talked a bunch of trash about the fact that we sat him and whatnot. But I think in the end, it probably helped this week. And I'm glad we put him back out there. I think the Hardy fumble on the kick on the I think it was the punt return. It was the punt return because it was Hardy returning it. That hit, like, I really don't blame it. Like, I saw it twice there. You know, they replayed it, and I was just like, ooh, both times. I know that they're supposed to, be prepared for it, but it was just the way he went down and the way he was getting hit. You know, it just sucks because of the field position.
Hey, once again, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on the X app, jump on over with Roy, Tiffany, Richard Rush, Daryl Fletcher, Be No Doubt, Marcus Austin. Come on over to YouTube. Watch us on YouTube. Get in the chat section. Interact with us. And as always, Super Chats take precedent. We'll get you up there, get your questions answered. Hit the like button, subscribe button, all those things. But I kind of wanted to go back real quick. You were talking about Josh on that throw. Daryl made a comment about he kind of threw off his back foot. To me, I think some of his interceptions this season aren't necessarily, now he does make some bad decisions. Some of the stuff like the throw to Diggs, I think his footwork is off. I don't know what it is about his footwork. If he's got happy feet, if he's too worried about getting out of the pocket.
Because when there.
Yeah, when his feet are on the ground, dude is, I'm like, you can't overthrow Diggs. Try to overthrow him.
Yeah. What you were saying with the happy feet and trying to get out of the pocket, we've had that conversation before.
Yeah.
He feels like this season, That's why he hasn't been sacked a lot of times. But this
Right.
season, he always seems to be running from the pocket. It's instead of, I was impressed because there was one pass that he made that he actually stepped up into the pocket. And I'm like, Josh stepped up into the pocket and to throw the ball. I want to see more of that, Josh. But obviously, Josh is going to be Josh. But in the end, when he's always on the run, he's always kind of throwing off his back foot or not planting correctly. So
it's a give and take, right? The understanding of where your receiver's at. That Gabe throw, he threw it the same way. The difference was Gabe was about 20 to 30 yards away, not 40 to 50. And on that play where you have Stephon Diggs out there who's extremely fast, you have to set up and throw that ball as far as you can. Like that's just, I mean, and maybe that's just Josh like getting in a panic and you take some of them. It's like you take the Gabe one and you're going to give some of them. But I'd like to see him on those set his feet.
Well, guys, the most impressive throw of the game, and it wasn't even a rocket, was the off-balance throw to Shakur that they called the touchdown back. I mean, that throw was absolutely ridiculous. That's in the same envelope as the sideline pass he made a few weeks ago, falling out of bounds. I mean, that's unworldly stuff. I mean, that throw was phenomenal. And again, a guy with a huge arm is the only guy that can do that in the body position that he was in. I have a question for both of you real quick. We talked about it earlier. We talked about it in the stats. We ran the ball 25 times. 5 of them was Josh Allen. A couple of them were called runs, but the other few were scrambles. Why would the Bills go away from the run after having the type of game they had against the Cowboys? I know you'll say they were giving them certain looks. I don't know. I watched the All-22. I didn't really see a ton of looks that led me to think that we could not run the football. I don't think maybe we had the sustainability that we had against the Cowboys because we kind of went away from it. I did get in a conversation with a person that said analytics-wise, we should have thrown the ball every first down, that every time we threw the ball, it was completed and it was successful. I don't get into analytics that much, but I was a little bit disappointed we didn't run the ball more than 20 times this past game to the tailback. I'll start with Jeremiah. How did you feel about the running game in this game?
Well, we ran so taking away Josh's 5, we ran it 25 times to running backs, right? So and for 90 yards, it wasn't as on first downs, it wasn't as positive as it was against the Cowboys. But when you're down by 10, you have to play with some type of you have to make sure that the clock isn't drained and you can't play with the clock management that you'd like to if you have the lead. And once they got the lead, you saw they fed Lenny and James Cook on the last drive. It's just like it's hard. It's like hard managing the clock, not knowing if you're going to have those breakout plays like they had with Josh and Gabe.
But guys, we rushed the ball 30 times. We had 52 offensive possessions. So
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
we had the ball 52 times.
Yeah. I was like
52 snaps.
I was like, Josh only threw like 22 times. So that means I just looked it up to make sure I didn't got a turn. But yeah, we only had 52 offensive total plays. So we ran the ball like 60-something% of our offense.
Well, normally that would be because people would say the defense wasn't getting the ball back. Well, that's not the case. No. We gave it to the other team 4 times?
3.
Think about it. I think it was
the time of possession.
Was Eric Wood. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the time of possession was 33 minutes to 26 minutes, but that was because we controlled the clock the last 4 or 5. So before that, it was like a good 11-minute difference. It was ridiculous the time of possession throughout the game. I'm surprised the defense held up the way they did.
Defense played their asses off, to be honest with you.
So quickly, someone asked on here about an update on Daquan Jones. So just so everybody knows, I'm sure unless you've lived under a rock, you probably saw that Elam was put back on the 53-man roster today. We had that open roster spot because Jordan Phillips was put on IR. So now when Daquan does come back, if and when, we will have to release somebody. So they're not going to make that decision until Daquan's 100%, able to play. And then you got to figure out who you're going to let go. Because obviously you want to let somebody go that can make it back onto the practice squad. That's not going to get, picked up on waivers. And you also have to look at contracts, because someone said something about Settle. Well, Settle has a void year. So if you release him before the end of the season, his void year becomes immediately due. So little things like that you're gonna have to look at when it comes to contracts and how they're gonna do that. You don't want to release someone. Said Spectre, like, you're not going to release someone that's a second year player that is going to get taken on a rookie contract in 0.2 seconds. So I think that's definitely a good chance, and I'm sure Jared knows a little bit more, but I believe Daquan's coming back. I just think that it will be very heavily thought out of what they're going to do in order to bring him back.
I would assume that it would be Kingsley if anybody, right? Like I don't know when he'll come back. It'll probably just be when he feels like he can press a lineman off of his chest, and I don't know when that'll be. Jordan didn't either when I asked him. So, but when he comes back, I would assume it'd be Kingsley, because he's probably the one guy that won't get picked up on waivers.
Yeah, I would think the same thing. I think if you're going to replace somebody, it's going to be somebody from that position group. You're not going to, you got your numbers that you had from the end of training camp. You're always going to keep those numbers. So somebody in that room will be the one that moves on, and then they'll bring Daquan back. But I'll be curious to see if it's this week. I mean, if why not? Why not this week?
Yeah. I would have liked to see him come in for a limited number of snaps before playing Miami.
Right.
So, I would have enjoyed that. Obviously, they're gonna have to make a decision sooner rather than later, because they have to cut and have somebody go through waivers in order to put them on the practice squad. So the one thing that a lot of people are asking about the practice squad, we kind of touched on it last week. Leonard Fournette can be activated, or elevated, for the last 2 games without being on the 53-man roster. So he is pretty much essentially going to be brought up, I would assume, the last 2 games. And then it all resets for the playoffs. So you can have an unlimited number of call-ups during the playoffs. It's still 2 per game, but I'm sure he'll be game day active during that time too. And then I kind of look at whoever we put on the practice squad that gets cut to make room for Daquan would probably also get called up. So it's definitely just right now probably some contract things, looking at who to release, but I definitely think that he's going to be good to go to play. I saw him kind of warming up the other day, and I'm like, he's definitely looking the part. He was doing some stuff with his upper body, and I'm like, okay, I think he's getting there. I think he's ready.
Well, hey, let's do this real quick. Let's before we hop into the Patriots, because I want to give ourselves some time at the end of the show, because Sarah and I want to discuss something that's going on in the NFL, and I'm glad that Jeremiah's here with us this week, and we'll drag him into that discussion as well. But before we get to the Patriots and we end the Chargers game, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsors that take such good care of us here at Line to Gain and the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, and that is our friends at Fichte, Endel, and Elmer Eye Care, and let's hear a little bit from them.
It's time to say goodbye to the blur and hello to clear vision. Fichte, Endel, and Elmer are the first in Western New York to bring you Zeiss Smile technology. Along with our highly experienced surgeons, we promise an effortless journey to better vision. Gone are the days of fumbling for glasses or struggling with contact lenses. Embrace the freedom of superb sight, because we believe you deserve the world in HD. Visit us online at Fichte.com and schedule a consultation. Fichte, Endel, and Elmer. We are focused on you.
Bills take on the Patriots in Orchard Park at Highmark Field, Highmark Stadium on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I will be there taking the game, as will my 2 friends here on the show. And I have to start the conversation about the game this way. Bill Belichick compares Josh Allen and Tom Brady. Believe it? A ploy? Does he really mean it? You be the judge.
Yeah,
Sarah, I'll ask you first. What do you think?
I think that he knows what he's doing every time he tries to get into somebody's head a little bit. I think he has respect for Josh Allen. I think that he wishes he had Josh Allen on his team. But and I love, everything there is to love about Josh Allen, but I'm not comparing him at this point in his career to, Tom Brady. And I can't stand Tom Brady, or I couldn't stand Tom Brady up until probably like the last 2 years when I haven't had to worry about him anymore. So someone put he hates both.
What do you think of those comments, Jeremiah?
I mean, the respect level that you have for one going into the game is comparable. I don't think he would ever compare the skill sets because they're not even close.
Exactly.
In skill set, like Tom Brady was very methodical, kind of cerebral, and Josh is more talent
Physical.
over. Yeah, and so I know he's not comparing their skill sets.
Did you just call Josh dumb?
No, that's not what I said.
I'm just messing with you. Headline tomorrow. All bro Poe.
Don't clip that. Thank you. I think they're more the respect level that teams have and fear, I guess you would say, going into a game against Josh Allen is probably about the same.
No, I think that, and obviously, you try to, these guys know what they're doing. They're masterminds at the manipulation and the mind games. But when I look at this game on Sunday, I think the biggest thing is going to be Belichick is a master of taking away what you do well and forcing you to play a certain way. Before the last X amount of weeks, I would say that his deal would be to, take Josh Allen away and try to force the Bills to run the football because they're not running the football well. But over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, the way the Bills are running the football, does Belichick take away the run to force the Bills to have to pass with maybe a receiving core that he feels he can cover up in the secondary? I think that's the biggest thing with Belichick. He is a master of finding your weak spot and exploiting it. And that's where I think this game Sunday is going to be really, really interesting. We saw the first game. Bills played horribly offensively. Does that continue? I think during that first game, the Bills were one-dimensional. They weren't two-dimensional. Now with the fact that they can run the football as well, just as effectively as throw it, what does Belichick choose to take away? I think that'll be a big thing this Sunday.
Yeah, I think this without Stevenson playing, though, I think that our defense should have our way with the Patriots offense. And I think that kind of sets the tone. When our defense goes out and just kills it right off the bat, I think it kind of sets the tone for our offense. Now, I say it all the time, when there's something that goes wrong on the first drive, we always tend to struggle kind of the whole first half. And the Denver game was a good scenario of that, where Cook fumbled on the first play. The Patriots game is a good example. Josh threw the interception on the first play. It just kind of never clicked until it was like fourth quarter. So I think that I think it's going to be more of what can our defense do to outsmart them, so that I don't think that it's going to work. I don't think Belichick's going to beat us twice in a year without Tom Brady.
Here's the thing with the first 12 games for me. It's like teams knew that Josh was handcuffed as far as not being able to run the ball and use his legs. And so, like, what do? You go take away Diggs, and what now? He has to be on time with every other receiver on his roster. And if his receivers are dropping those balls, we're probably not going to succeed. And so, it's interesting to me how, like, when Josh is able to open up his legs, you can't just take away Diggs. You can't just take away a receiver and hope that things work out in your favor. So it'll be interesting to see what Belichick decides to do. I don't think this team has a very strong personality when it comes to when they feel like they were bullied or have been bullied or were talked about previously. They have some type of pride, chip on their shoulder. That's the way this roster was constructed. And so I really think this game is going to come out in 40-16, like that type of game, and we're going to throw the ball for 350. So we'll see.
Well, you make a great point, because that's what I saw watching the All-22 this past week. When I watched this Chargers game, I thought guys played good. I don't think anybody played it crazy exceptional. I don't think that the sustained level of enthusiasm or physicality or play from the Cowboys game was there. Now, I've been in that situation. Playing on Christmas Day absolutely sucks. Okay, especially when you got a family, you got young kids, and you got to get on that plane on Christmas Eve and fly your ass somewhere to go play a game. It's not fun. So human nature kind of takes takes charge. But no, I think you're right. I think that this Bills team is wild, man. Like I wish everybody would talk trash to them every week, because when they feel like they're slighted, when they feel like that they're the old, when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl in what was it, 18, when they won the Super Bowl, they all wore the dog masks, right? Nobody likes us and we don't care. They had that huge, underdog role going on. And that's how this team is, man. Like, I had a coach back when I was playing in Buffalo named Carl Mock, and he used to get on me all the time. He'd tell me I couldn't handle prosperity, which is his way of saying that he had to stay on me all the time, which was true. I was a guy that needed to be motivated that way, as opposed to, petting my belly and, all that type thing, get a pat on the back. I needed to have a foot up my rear end. But, I think this Bills team is that way. And I think you're right. I mean, I expect them to play really, really well. I expect them to have a ton of energy. It would be really surprising to me if they struggled 2 times in a row against this Patriots team, just because of what happened last time, and knowing people maybe have doubt in the back of their heads. They just love that. That's how they motivate.
And I think that we kind of also, we have the ebbs and flows. So I think that sometimes we have a game where we go out and we just kill it, like the Miami game earlier this season. And then the week after, we go and play Jacksonville and just didn't quite show up. I think that that's kind of, again, what happens. We had 2 emotional weeks. We beat the Chiefs. We go in and destroy Dallas. And I think that, this was kind of like a little bit of a letdown for them. Like, it's just the Chargers. And so I feel like, we kind of play to our opponents sometimes. I just don't want this week to go in and have us thinking about Miami. I know they say it every week. It's 1 week at a time. It's 1 week at a time. We're only focused on this week, but now prove it, because I don't want us to screw up whatever we're working towards, which obviously I think we all have the same goal, which is to go to the Super Bowl, over the freaking Patriots. The Patriots just beat Denver. They have a great defense. So I just don't want to overlook them.
But I have to go ahead, Jeremy.
Just as far as like the overlooking aspect of teams, I wouldn't say that us turning the ball over 3 times against the Chargers, which is the only reason they were probably in that game to begin with, is us overlooking them. There's games where you go into and things don't work out the way that you want it to, and you have that Jekyll.
Right.
And the thing is, with this team, they're very emotional. And so they ride that Miami game, this whole like them talking about Josh beforehand, like they just don't like the Dolphins. And when they are playing emotional, when Josh is playing emotional, it's like it's different. And now that they lost to the Patriots, McDermott does a really good job at pivoting and driving into your heads that you lost to the Patriots previously.
And you promised me that. You promised me that after the first Jets game, going into the second Jets game, you were like, "We are going to dog walk them."
It's going to be smacked.
You promised me that, and
I'm
the
saying,
script,
like, it's just
like
it's a certain way that the season goes, and you can feel it, and like it's how I view it, anyways. And I just feel like this is going to be a crazy butt whooping, and we'll be going into Miami for the East.
For the division.
But think about this. Guys. Think about this. And all they've done is added another game to the season. And look how different the seasons are going now as opposed to when there were 16 games. You're going to have moments of adversity in a season with 17 football games. You just can't stay away from it. All the great teams in the league have had some sort of adversity this year. Maybe, I don't know, I can't really pinpoint Baltimore's, but the 49ers have had it. They've lost in Cleveland, lost a couple games in a row. The Eagles obviously had it. Kansas City damn sure has had it. We've had it. I think the mark of a champion, the mark of a good team, is how you handle that adversity. The Bills had their dark days. I mean, we got rid of the offensive coordinator. We hired Joe Brady, and now look at the way things are going. That is a huge testament to that locker room. The leadership in that locker room, to me, is really, really strong, because they went through that storm and they come out on the other side and they're doing well. And now we have a chance, if the things fall right and we beat, we win this weekend, we beat the Dolphins, we have a chance if things fall right, we could win the damn division, right?
We could be the second seed.
Right. After everybody nationally is talking about us not making the playoffs.
After Spin said we should tank at 6-6. Don't think I
Right.
forgot Spin. Don't think I forgot Spin. I got the screenshots.
And then you look at what's going on in Kansas City, and I'm sorry, everybody likes to clown on the guy, but Patrick Mahomes is not the issue with that football team. Everybody likes to clown on the guy that's got the $1.2 billion girlfriend. Y'all clown on him because you're jealous as hell. He's not the problem. The problem is they never replenish their roster. They don't have the talent that they have. Their offensive line's depleted. Their wide receivers
the best defense he's ever had, and now his offense
defense they've ever had,
and now his offense is falling
right. They got no talent on offense. So say what you will, but this weekend was a bad look on their part.
It was a
Mahomes.
Great day, though. I haven't laughed so much.
But you had Pat Mahomes yelling about call the damn play. You had Travis Kelce whipping his helmet to where Andy Reid finally had to take notice and bench him for a little bit. I think the Bills had their opportunity to end up that way, and they didn't. And again, I give all the credit to the dudes in the locker room, man. Huge props to the leadership in that locker room because they're different. They roll to their own beat, but it works. And leadership's strong. And like I said, we went from not making the playoffs to all of a sudden having a chance to be the second seed. So props to them.
So leadership definitely gets you through. And this is something that I've had a conversation with Jordan about. That leadership gets you through when your back's not against the wall. And the best thing about this football team and the way McDermott coaches is that no matter what game it is over the last however many years, other than the Colts game where we got smacked at home, that when our backs are against the wall, this team plays better than any other time. And I don't know the mindset that goes into it. It's just when their backs are against the wall, it's different. It's a different mindset. It's why no matter what game it is, no matter what the score is, that they're probably never out of it. This team is probably never out of the game. And so it's interesting to see if you're able to, if you like when we were talking about McDermott not being here or certain players being gone or whatever it is, if that's the makeup of the team or if that's something from the coaching and the leaders and that's something that has been instilled into the like we talk about culture. The culture of this team is that we're never done, and when we're back against the wall, we have to fight out of it. We're going to fight like until the end. So it's interesting.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to play our Picasso's ad, give them some props, but right before I do, then I want to kind of address what we're going to lead into next. So today,
I was excited Jeremiah was here today because this is a great topic for him to be here too, by the way.
So obviously, okay, so today, the Denver, Broncos decided that they were going to bench Russell Wilson for the last two games of the season. We're going to talk about it. I got into some little battles, text message battles with some of y'all about, whether or not we agree, disagree. Now, obviously, since the decision has happened, some more information has come out. So I will say my initial battle, and then I will say, what else has come out. But first, let's hear from Picasso's.
Hey, football fans, the season is here. So that means family, football, and food. But for the NFL's best fan base, it can't be just any food. Bills Mafia only eats the best during the season. And the best is Picasso's Pizza. With 4 great locations in Western New York, it's so easy to treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net.
All right, Sarah.
All right. So
lead us into this because I'm with you. Now that all the cards are on the table.
Yeah. So I do. So initially they said that they were going to sit him, that it was a financial decision. So I'm going to read here the timing of his 2025 injury guarantee. It's if he's on the roster on the 5th day of the 2024 league year, which is in March of 2024. So if he's on there, it is fully guaranteed for 2025 for injury. So, and for injury. So obviously, if he gets injured and can't pass physicals, can't do anything between now and March, it really seriously impacts whether or not they were considering trading him or bringing him back and having him lead their team. If he wasn't going to be on the field, 2024 and 2025 become very expensive for them. So mathematically, when I first thought about it, I was like, they have like no chance of making the playoffs. I understand this. They want him back healthy for next year. They have a 7% chance of still making the playoffs. Very small chance. But also, there's some animosity there with, how Wilson's been, handling the team. The cap, if he is released, is $85 million this year, 2024. $85 million. If they trade him, it's $68 million. If he gets injured before getting traded, that is obviously not going to happen. So then they're going to have to release him, which is the $85 million. Obviously, they can do the post June 1st designation, split it up amongst 2 years. That doesn't change how much money it is. So initially, I thought of Josh Allen. If we were not going to the playoffs and we had absolutely no chance of going to the playoffs, sit him, do not let him get hurt. I don't want you touching my quarterback because I want him there day one of, OTAs. I want him okay during training camp. I want him to be there opening day. I understood the mindset when I first heard the news. I was like, of course, sit his ass. He's expensive. You don't want him to get hurt. You want him to be there next year and play. Then obviously more information came out. So I am going to retract a little bit because now they want to protect their investment because they're looking to get rid of them, which is a little bit different. Obviously, I'm not trying to backtrack so much as to say, that I don't agree with them, financially, doing what they need to do. I was looking at, as a fan, I would be totally okay with you making sure Josh is safe sitting on the bench if we have no chance of making the playoffs. I'd be completely okay with that. Obviously, some of the people that I was messaging with didn't agree. They said it sucks for the fans. And I was like, again, I'm saying it as a fan. I would prefer you protect my $250,000, or $250 million quarterback. I want next year to be okay. I don't want a stupid injury to keep him out next year too, and then we're bad 2 years in a row. You obviously said F the organization pretty much.
I'm not an organization person. Okay, I've seen the league, the NFL kind of goes this way. You get drafted and you make your minimums, then you play well and they give you your contract. And as soon as they give you your contract, they try to figure ways to take it back.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not a fan of of organizations. I mean, I understand they're doing business. I'm doing business too. What I do have an issue with, and initially I was very much, I don't care if it's 6%, 7%, 90%. If you have a chance to make the playoffs, you play your best players because you got a chance. Okay. I don't agree with tanking. I don't agree with sitting your most talented people.
They
but
did
I will
come
say
out
this.
and say they felt that Stidham right now would be willing to play, or was playing better or whatever.
You got two of the most egotistical forces in football on the same team. You got Sean Payton and you got Russell. And those two colliding is not good. I mean, Sean Payton's the best head coach in football. Just ask him. And then you got Russ. And my problem with Russ, after I've seen everything and all the information came out, I don't know if you read this, but they went to Russ after the Kansas City game when they beat the Chiefs in October and said, look, we want you to help us out. Can we rework your salary? Can we work your contract? We'll keep you here, whatever.
Guaranteed. It was just the guarantee,
right.
the injury guarantee.
But anyway, it was still a rework. And instead of being mature about it, Russ flipped his lid, drug his representation into it. They drug the NFLPA into it. They all had meetings and never came to an agreement. Personally, if I'm at the swan song of my career, which Russ is, and I want to keep playing and I want to show that I'm a team player, Russ made his money, man. I'm not saying that Russ should play for free, but this is an instance where, in good faith, he could have done something for the organization to show that he wanted to be there,
Right.
and he didn't. I do have a little bit of an issue with that. But as far as the other part goes, and I said it earlier, if you have a chance to make the playoffs, you play your best teams. It's not Russell Wilson's fault, you idiots traded 20 players and whatever you traded to get them. That's your fault. That's not his fault. And, personally, I play Russ. I don't think Russ is going to be a member of the Broncos next year. I really don't. I think they're going to eat the dead money.
I don't think anymore. I don't think so anymore.
Right. They're going to eat the cap and try to figure it out.
So I was very on it earlier. Like I said, I mean, that's why I was excited, because I was like, oh, I'm going to tear into Jerry. We're on opposite sides of this. And then little by little more came out. And I don't have the air in my sails anymore. Obviously, if they were doing it to ensure that he remained healthy, and it was, understood that he was going to be with them next year and yada, 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 I completely agree with the decision. And I know fans, they pay money to go and see, their people play, but you buy tickets in advance all the time, not knowing if someone's going to be on that field, not knowing if the game's going to even matter. So I kind of, was taking that route where protect my quarterback, protect my franchise quarterback. But more information came out. Now it seems a little selfish. They're doing it to protect the money aspect. And it really, in the end, if they release him, like I said, it's like 85 million. If they try to trade him, it's I think 68. The problem is if he's injured, doing the release is is pretty impossible without a settlement, and then trying to trade somebody who's injured is going to be next to impossible. So that's where it all kind of stems from. So now I understand a little bit more. I won't die on my opinion any further that I did earlier today.
Just a question before I respond. The dead cap is only in 2024 if they cut him?
If they designate it before 6/1. If they do
only 2024.
2024,
2026, 2027.
if they cut him before 6/1, it's $85 million. If they designate him after 6/1, then it splits between the two years, 2024 and 2025.
Obviously I'm a big player. I try to look at it from the player's perspective, and
third of the cap. That's a third of the cap, by the way. Just go on.
But I also try to be unbiased. You traded him and gave him the extension for 5 years, $250 million. That was your choice. I don't care what coach you brought in. That was your choice to pay him $250 million for 5 years.
Yep.
You better sit there and lay in that bed and for 5 years, or at least 4, and see what Russ can do for you, because nobody.
He still made his money. He made the guaranteed portion of his contract. That's what the $85 million. If they cut him, that's what the $85 million is the rest of his guaranteed money and the option. So, I mean, in the end, he's not going to lose out. That's why they tried to get him to rework the injury guarantee, and he refused to do that. So
no, don't ask. If I'm a player, don't ask me. Talk to my agent. That's what I would do. I talk to my agent. I signed that deal. You signed it, and now we're both going to have to lay in it, regardless if I'm unhappy here or you're unhappy here. If you don't want me here, cut me. I'm going to make my money regardless. And then on the organization side, I don't mind them sitting him. I don't see a way where the Broncos get in anyway. So if you're trying to trade him, which I don't think is going to happen,
I don't see any team that's going to be willing to take on that salary. Well, and his salary for them isn't as bad as the salary hit it is for Denver. So you might find somebody to take on.
If he was elite, then it wouldn't look that bad. But it still looks bad.
But he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
I
still think Russell's got good football left in him. I don't think he's what he used to be. I think he's got good football left in him. But at 35, that's where I talked about earlier. If you want to do a good faith gesture and help the team out, find a way to help the team out. But But
I honestly think, Jerry, what you're saying right there is with him being 35, that injury guarantee is his insurance policy. If he can never play another down.
We'll keep the injury guarantee and rework the rest of the deal.
No, but that's what they asked him to remove. Was
right.
The injury
That's
guarantee.
what I know. But what I'm saying is find a way to make it work for both sides.
No,
and
but
you
that's
can
not on,
find a way.
That's not on Russ. Like that's on your team. When you wanted Russ and you traded.
No,
for that,
I totally agree.
You don't get to negotiate, and just like you said earlier, you don't get to negotiate with me then, and we come to an agreement, and then come back to me and say, and if you do, if you're Tom Brady, like back in when he went in and he's like, yo, I want more players, I want to win an extra Super Bowl, this and that. That is on the player's discretion if he wants to go in there and do that. It's not on Russell Wilson to say, no, I'm going to take less money so that you guys can make stuff happen. No, we both agree to this. Let's lay it.
So
I agree with that. Let me real quick, Sarah. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. I apologize. But real quick to that, if I know that if I can rework my deal and I can get more weapons and we can be a better team, then I try to figure out a way to do that.
Okay, Tom Brady.
At the age of 35.
That's what Tom did. That's the one thing that I respect for Tom Brady. He did that, but he also had a wife that was worth $500 million. So he didn't really care. Right. And how many deals did he have outside of the team that he was making money all the time? So the actual contract itself, wasn't a big deal. But I did have a question.
A good point.
Yeah, I was going to say,
for the team.
Go. I'm sorry. Read that again.
Matt said that the deal was
finalized before they officially on the team.
Yeah, exactly. There.
So, kind of branching off this into another question. How do you, because it kind of, in my opinion, and I kind of used this earlier, kind of reminds me of the same thing. How do you guys feel about these college guys who are holding out of the bowl games? They're not, if they're not in the playoffs, or playing for something, real, knowing that if they get injured, it can ruin their draft stock and their money. And
me and
somebody
Big O
said
think the same on this for sure. I think.
Yeah, because someone said earlier, well, they're not paid yet, and I'm like, well, nowadays they kind of are with nil. It is a little different, but I mean, how do you feel about that? Because if you're okay with them sitting out because it affects their money and affects their draft position, shouldn't that be considered the same thing?
I think that when you go into college, players have certain things they do well. There are some guys that are playing that are good football players that are there to get a degree because they're smart kids. They're going to go into the real world. They're going to get a good job. They're going to get paid well. There's some guys playing college football because their skill set is they're going to be in the NFL, and that's where their money is going to be made. And if playing an extra bowl game gives them an opportunity to get hurt, I go back to the situation in Buffalo when we took who's my guy that we took in the second round that blew his knee out in the bowl game? McGahee. Okay. I go back to that. If my skill set and my livelihood is revolving around football and the best decision for me is to not play in that game to keep me healthy, then that's what I do. We just played 2 weeks ago against a guy that did not play his entire senior season. Okay. Did not play his entire senior season. That Micah Parsons, when he was at Penn State, he went and trained and got ready for the league, got drafted high, and now is making the money he's making. So you got to look at the player and you got to look at the situation. And if a guy wants to sit out of a bowl game, especially, they're not going to sit out of the national championship semifinals.
No, I said if they're not in the playoffs, yeah.
Right. So, and you made that point. But no, I mean, if it's just an extra game and an opportunity to get hurt, and it causes you to not get picked when you get picked, by all means, sit out and go get ready for the draft.
Right.
Because
so that was my point.
That is your livelihood.
That was my point when it came before it was that they were looking to possibly trade Russ. That was my point with Russ. Well, they want him to be good for next year. That it's his livelihood. They want him to be able to play. That was my argument with Russ. Well, it's 2 meaningless games. Let him sit and get him ready for next year. Obviously, more came out. So go ahead, Jer.
I just on the college topic. Look, you as a player, as a person, you make your own choices and you live with them and whatever. As an owner or as a coach, I'm not drafting anybody that's fully healthy that sat out of their bowl game.
You're not?
I'm not anybody. I'm not drafting Caleb Williams if he sat out of his thing. I'm not drafting anybody that sat out of their.
I mean, like,
right. That's my personal opinion on. I can't.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is sitting out,
but he's been injured all year. He's been injured all year working. He's been working through injuries all year with his hamstring, and so I understand if you're working through stuff. But if I'm looking for a mindset like Josh, where he's going to run through a wall every single week, and I want that type of quarterback on my team, I'm going to get a guy that wants to play, that loves football, that wants to play football. That's my personal opinion on owners and coaches drafting players.
And I agree with that. But at that point in time, I don't think that's a thing. That's not a decision made on whether I love the play or not. That's made on a decision whether of how do I obtain and keep my draft stock. I used to be just like Jeremiah. I used to be just like Jay. I had the same viewpoint. And then you started seeing things like Willis McGahee. Then I had a kid show up and play. Then all those things. And, the NCAA and those colleges make so much money off of those kids. What happens if that kid gets hurt and he goes from a first round top 15 pick to a fifth round? Well, just use Jalen Smith, right? I know it worked out for him. He did get picked in the first round, but his career was short at Dallas. He's supposed to get picked up this week, I believe it's the Cleveland Browns, but that hurt him. I don't know, man. I knowing what I know and seeing how the NCAA and schools up until NIL the last couple of years have manipulated things. I don't know. I can't fault the kid for making the best decision for him, but I do agree. I mean, I do agree with what you had to say. I mean, because I'm a loyal guy, I'm a loyalist. I would have played no matter what. That's me. But
you're a guy I would draft. That's my point. I don't fault the player for making whatever choice they want to make. As a owner and a coach, I'm looking for players that would run through a wall to play football. And so, and that's just the mindset that I guess me and.
But maybe they want to save themselves to run through a wall. Run through a wall for
when was Jordan? When was Jordan drafted? I can't remember.
2013.
Yeah, but where in the draft? What position?
Seventh.
And
he was projected to go second. And he played the Pro Bowl. He went to the combine. He did all this thing, and he ended up doing what exactly like he could have been injured in those things. He could have went higher if he didn't play in those things. This whole idea of protecting it just shows, in my opinion, character. And I look at character when I'm drafting young kids more so than anything. There's so much talent in the draft. You can find talent at any level of the draft from first to seventh.
Undrafted.
Right, undrafted, and so. If I'm trying to draft, especially like the Buffalo Bills, the mindset that they draft for character. They have been for a while now. And the character that they've brought in, they're able to mold into this culture that they have here. And it's been sustainable for more years. And so I don't fault a kid for making a choice. I just personally wouldn't draft him if they did that.
When you say seventh, do you mean seventh overall?
Seventh
round.
Yeah.
Well, he's not built that way. And I hate to say this, but I was picked in the 10th round. They don't even have 10 rounds anymore. Jordan's a football player. That's what he does. That's what he loves to do. And I don't know, man. That's
what I want on my team.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Those are the type of guys that I would want on my team playing each week, week in and week out.
And those aren't the guys that sit out of bowl games.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So quickly, Papa Ron just put, does your opinion change based on the millions that they can get with the NIL deals? And to me, I think the only thing that NIL does now is give some of these kids the opportunity to decide to stay in school and not go in the NFL because some of them are getting paid more in college than they on the NIL deals than they are on their rookie contract. So it's actually a little bit more motivation to stay in school, get the education, and hopefully college football might actually become a little bit more competitive over the years, getting some of these guys to stay.
If we restructure, if we like try to forget what you know about Josh right now from the NFL. If he was back in the draft now, and it was Caleb who is touted to be the most talented quarterback to come out of the draft, or Josh, who would you pick?
I'm going to have to say right away, I wasn't set on Josh, but I'll be honest. After seeing what Caleb did towards the end of the year, I'm not set on Caleb either. I know he didn't have the team around him to prove what kind of quarterback he can be. But I'm not set on Caleb either. So it's a little hard for me to go back right now and say I would choose Caleb over Josh or Josh over Caleb, because I know too much about Josh now. But I was not set on Josh coming out of, I was like, Wyoming, he has no competition. He, what are we doing? His accuracy sucks. Like, I was not set on Josh Allen. I'll be honest, I was wanting Baker Mayfield.
First of all, I love Baker. I would take Baker in 2 seconds. You want to talk? Hey, man, Jeremiah, you want to talk about all the stuff you just talked about, playing football and a football player and intangibles? That cat got all of what you like.
Okay? To a fault of hurting your team.
All of what you like.
To a fault of hurting your team, man.
Dude just played himself into a contract in Tampa Bay. They will resign him. I definitely believe that.
Man,
but Caleb,
now if you said,
when I look at Caleb Williams coming out and I look at Josh Allen, Caleb Williams is like got generational skills. Now I think he's a baby ass. I think his daddy takes care of him.
Right. So who do you pick in that situation?
But if I'm looking, if I've got to answer, if I got to answer to the public, and I got to answer to the dude sitting around the table in the room, and I'm the general manager, I'm taking Caleb Williams all day long. But you, when you
so now, if you would have said Penix, I would have told you that because I am a huge fan of Penix right now.
I am too, but I'm worried about
Penix or May. I would have been like, all right, you know what?
Like
they're both.
I agree with May
kind of like in that we don't know what you're getting with Josh just coming out of college. If I look at, they're all great for talents, but I'm looking at your character, and I don't like Caleb Williams' character. And so like I can't ask him to go lead a group of vet men to try to turn this organization around. Whereas I can ask Josh to go show himself. He may not be able to talk himself as a leader. He can go show himself.
I will say Caleb kind of reminds me of Baker's like the cockiness and the attitude, and
Baker had a little bit more set on him though. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. He had a little bit more of a set on him back then. Caleb painting nails, like I had nothing against it. Like do your thing, but like you're about to go lead a group of 53 men onto the field. I don't want F Utah on my fingernails.
Hey, Sarah, you must. Dude, hey, I'm gonna tell you something. When Baker crosses the state lines and he's in Oklahoma, that dude does whatever he wants down here. Believe me. But no, I'm laughing because as soon as I said something about Baker, I instantly get a text message from Spence.
Yes,
Baker's so trash, and I'm like. And Sarah will get this reference, but I don't know about you, Jeremiah. But you remember in Monsters Inc., Roz, who worked at Monsters Inc., and she'd go, "Always watching, Lazowski, always watching." That's Spence. Spence is like Roz. He's Roz from Monsters Inc., man. Always watching. But no, man, I like Penix a lot. I think Penix got a ton of intangibles. My kid got a 15-yard penalty on him first play of the game, lit his ass up. It looked like a yard sale. He hit him about 15 yards in the air. But
okay, and
I worry about his durability.
For 1 second, because this Baker's his buns crap and the comments and all this other stuff. He wasn't in college. He was legit.
But we forget. The same stuff we would go ahead and back Josh's ass with was, but Josh had 3 offense coordinators in 3 years, and Josh. The worst thing Baker ever did was he did what Jeremiah talks about, and the fact that he tried to do what was best, what he thought was for his team, and play with an absolutely blasted shoulder that needed surgery.
But I'm not going to defend Baker in the NFL. I'm just defending him in college.
Kept playing through it, and it wasn't the best thing for him, and struggled through it. And now he's in Tampa Bay doing well. Was Baker the number 1 overall pick? Probably not. I understand why Dorsey did it to try to change the landscape of the team. But Baker is not fun.
Which helped Baker come in and help that Browns team get to work.
So Matt Bynum just put as well. Jamarcus Russell was elite in college. Guys, the question was, who would you have picked out of college, not
No, but
knowing
if you dug-
anything, not knowing anything about the NFL.
You would take Caleb
dug
Williams
it-
and don't act like you wouldn't.
If you
Hey,
dug
the
into
last-
Jamarcus, though,
The
if you
last
dug
6
into Jamarcus'
games,
stats,
man,
you
he's
probably
just
wouldn't
not.
take him.
Yeah, but Josh, especially what you just said. Oh, he's in Wyoming. Oh, I don't know what he can do. Oh,
Yeah.
he's not accurate. You would take Caleb Williams. He's
Probably.
prototypical. The closest thing coming out of college that we've seen to Mahomes is Caleb Williams.
Nah,
Okay.
Mahomes
And-
had a dog coming out of him, and he was drafted in the 5th or 3rd round, 5th round, or whatever.
Yes, but
I
I'm
don't
just
see a
telling
dog
you.
in
Wait,
Caleb.
Mahomes?
Yes.
Mahomes, I
Mahomes
didn't
was
see any
drafted in the
dog. I
first.
mean, the
Well,
biggest
Texas
instead
Tech,
of
I thought he
it's,
came out in the 3rd to Kansas City.
Caleb
First.
Williams' issue is his daddy always covers him.
Because the Bills
Mahomes'
passed over
issue
him.
is his mommy always had his back. I mean, it's all the same. But when you come out of college
It's like 14th or 17th.
and you put that stuff together, Josh didn't win a Heisman Trophy. Caleb Williams did.
The Heisman Trophy, Johnny Manziel won a Heisman Trophy. Tim Tebow won a Heisman Trophy. What is that to
Hey,
me?
Tim Tebow's a damn dog. Don't
Damn
talk.
dog, but
Don't
like,
put that on Tim
Oh.
Tebow's name,
if
Jeremiah.
you want to mesh the talent
Tim Tebow's
with
a
the
dog.
mindset, you get Josh, kind of. You know what I mean? Like the talent with the mindset, you need to tutor him a little bit. You don't get Caleb Williams, who really don't have the mindset. It's impossible to teach a
But we were
mindset.
talking out of college. Nobody knew that about Josh
Josh?
Allen. All
Yes.
anybody was talking about was tweets he made as an 18, 19-year-old kid.
No,
These
it was even
recruits-
younger.
These recruits go and meet Josh. If you meet Josh at all at any point from college to now, that kid is somebody that can lead with his personality.
I'm down with that. Look. I don't know if you can see it. There's a 17 on my jersey right here, okay? I love the dude. I'm just saying, out of college, comparing the two, and then I'm just saying, you're going to take Caleb Williams.
I wouldn't even take Caleb now. Caleb should drop to the 3rd round for me. Drop to the 3rd. I might take Caleb.
I'm
in the
not
3rd
saying
round,
that.
back up
I'm
Here's
to
the
not
11.
saying
deal.
that.
I'm not a
back up to
fan
11.
either. I'm not a fan either. I'm just saying, but if you put it all together.
So
mean,
I
that's
would
what it
say
is.
coming into the season, before we get out of here, but coming into the season, I was a Caleb Williams fan. His game, I feel like because so much of a spotlight was shown onto him, you can see by game 6 his personality
Broken.
overtaking. It was terrible.
Broken.
Like some of his post-game comments, some of it, the way his attitude. I was like, "What is going on?"
He
with this
cried
kid?
on the sideline this season. He put a towel over his head and was crying.
But but you don't. But everyone was saying he was doing that. They were saying that he was doing that because his chances of winning a bowl game, and his chances of going number 1 overall might be ruined. And it was selfish in that, like, I don't know. So I will say I was a Caleb Williams fan. As the season went on, I started to die off of that. I've always been a Michael Penix fan. I don't like Drake May because he's the ACC. But I respect his game. Same thing where I didn't like Lamar Jackson, but I respected his game coming out. So, that's a little bit more personal for me. But I honestly, at this point in time, think that someone is going to get the Josh Allen special. And I'm not saying their game is anything next to each other, but I think someone's going to get a huge surprise pick if they pick Penix.
Every year, everybody thinks they look at Josh and they say, "Okay, where's the next?" But
yeah, I don't think that I don't think their game is anywhere similar or anything like that. I think they're very different. But I think what I'm saying is that no one thought that Josh was going to be Josh, and I think that it's going to be the same thing when it comes to Penix. I think he's going to come out and he's going to be very good.
But there's a
in
difference,
the NFL.
though. Here's the difference between Penix and Josh Allen. Okay, ready? The guy wearing the Josh Allen jersey is Josh Allen. Sara, you're Penix. That's the difference. And what I'm saying that is I've stood next to you. You know our size comparisons. Okay. Penix is great. I love Penix. I just don't know how durable he is in the NFL. But I will say this. Everybody wants to put on him like they did on C.J. Stroud that he's a running quarterback. He's not a running quarterback. He's a throw the ball, get out.
If you look at Tua, you look at
Tua's got a lower half like an old lineman now. Tua's a thick dude. Tua's issue was his melon, not his body in general. It was his head. But that's my only. And I really want Washington to win the national championship. I think it would be awesome. I'm a very
sorry, Michigan.
And by the way, Daniel Jeremiah, and this is for another show because we got to wrap this thing up. We're already at 110. Daniel Jeremiah came out this year, said, which is good. This is good for the Bills. The wide receiver class this year is as deep as it's ever been.
Yeah.
Sick talent, and your boy
number 3.
And everybody wants to put the spotlight on Columbus. Daniel Jeremiah, his favorite receiver is my favorite receiver, which would be your favorite receiver, which is Oduze out of Washington. I mean, dude's a dog. And by the way, I will say this again before we get out of here. Don't ever put that on Tim Tebow, man. Tim Tebow is a straight dog, dude. You can't say that about Tim Tebow, man.
You can't play in the NFL.
You can't speak that about Tim Tebow, man.
He couldn't play in the NFL.
He beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. That's all I gotta say.
He threw a slant route, and my buddy took it 80. He threw a slant route, my buddy took it 80.
He beat the Steelers in the playoffs. He can play tight end, and he's also a baseball player, man.
Tim Tebow would have 40 picks in the NFL right now.
Yeah. I was never a Tebow fan. So
Jeremiah, you are always welcome on the show. Yes. You want to come on? All you got to do is text us. Let us know you want to come on. We appreciate you coming on. She's Sarah Christine. I'm the big O Jerry Ostroski for Jeremiah Poyer. As always, hey, if you see me up in Orchard Park this weekend, come over and say hi. I'd love to see you, all of us up there. And by the way, one love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.